Hi, Amy. Thank you for coming on our podcast, The Product Life. This is your host, Apoorv Sibal. I am representing Best Views Reviews, which is a product analytics website where we take millions and millions of reviews from Amazon and use our natural language processing algorithms to come up with rankings and ratings for all these products. So, once again, thank you, Amy, for coming on our podcast. Would love to know more about you. Please, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. I'm Amy Feind Reeves, and I am I have been I'll get to what I'm doing now in a second, but of importance is the fact that I have been a banker, a project finance banker, a global management consultant, a corporate executive, a nonprofit executive, an entrepreneur who's built and sold a small company, a board member, a philanthropist, and about 10 years ago, I followed my passion and became a career advisor. And I have just published this book, which is called College to Career Explained: Tools, Skills, and Confidence for Your Job Search. And before I had career ADD and did all of those many things over about 2.5 decades, I had a really formative experience getting out of college. I had a terrible time getting the one job that I really wanted, which was getting on a bank training program. This was late last century when everybody who went to a good college and had a good GPA was supposed to go to Wall Street. And I thought I was going to do that too. And I did all my research and I got a good skirt suit. And what happened was I couldn't even get an interview. And I spent the year working as an admin, which was a great learning experience. And I spent a lot of time talking to people who had gotten those jobs and learned what I had done wrong and they had done right. And the next year I got that job the first year out of the gate. And I really loved it and I was really good at it. And it turns out the only difference was that I didn't know how to job search or interview. And I really firmly believe that those are things that do not come naturally. They have to be taught. And the same thing as I grew into higher and higher levels of becoming a hiring manager and a manager overall. And specifically with hiring, whenever I was in an office and someone would come in and go, oh my God, my neighbor's kid or my nephew is trying to get into this business, I would raise my hand first and say, I'll help them. And that has become my passion, is to help people with their career. And my first book, my first love, has been working with kids transitioning from college to career, because I really think that there still are not a lot of fantastic resources for them. A lot of things that just nobody ever tells them as they transition, make that first big jump. And there are a lot of people who get nervous about it and just don't make it. In fact, the statistics say that 40% of college graduates do not have college degree level jobs up to the first 5 years, which is something that I'm working to combat.
Wow, that sounds interesting, Amy. So, what are some of the advice that you would actually give to a college graduate? What are some of the advice?
Well, I going through systematically, starting at the beginning, I would tell I like to let people know what jobs there are. So, for example, when I see clients, and as my book starts, I like to tell people how to think about jobs. And if you even look, usually I'll say to someone, what's the last thing you bought? And usually it's either coffee or a t-shirt of some sort. And if you go through buying a cup of coffee at Starbucks and you say, what jobs are there? Usually somebody will say barista. What's the most important job at Starbucks? And it turns out the most important job at Starbucks is actually, or one of the most important jobs. I don't want somebody who works at Starbucks to call and give me a hard time, but one of the most important jobs is the person from the real estate division who stands outside a potential site with a counter and clicks how many feet go by. Because it's really, really important if you're to be in the right space to get enough customers to walk by, because that's what drives that business, or maybe how many cars go by on a highway. And there's also the people who, Starbucks, in fact, is backward integrated. So they also have real estate people buying coffee plantations in all different parts of the world, and people who run those plantations, and people who do the logistics of hiring people to pick the beans and to get the beans transported all over the world, and do the contracts to get them transported, and work with logistics people customs people, get them bagged, get them roasted, get them into stores. They have people who decorate the stores. They have people who curate the music, curate what the products they're going to sell. And if you really think about how to run that operation, the number of jobs it takes to get you your coffee in the morning, even a mom and pop shop, there's people that have business to business paper goods sales to get the toilet paper and the paper towels into the bathrooms at those places. So those are jobs that, once you think about it, you know what jobs there are. And the reasons why you don't know what jobs there are when you're getting out of college, because nobody likes to talk about what they're doing when they're not doing it. And it's hard to explain what you're doing when there's a lot of industry language, et cetera. Anyway, to go on with your question, networking is a really big part of what college grads need to do, and it's really scary for them. So just explaining what it is that networking is, which is really not scary. It's just talking to people with a goal in mind. And that goal is to get the person you're talking to stay in touch, asking them for their information, and with the ask that if a job ever becomes available at their company, could you please consider, if I reached out, sending my resume in internally? And in this day and age, in most companies, there are cash bonuses given for referrals. So it really shouldn't be considered much of a bonus. And a lot of people think network is something that you do in a suit, in an office, in a big conference room with a martini in your hand, or some other vision of what it might be. And it's not. It's really just talking to people and talking to them about what you're looking to do. So a concise elevator pitch is a good tool, and something that should be done at in any Starbucks, in a backyard barbecue situation, anywhere that you are talking to people.
Got it. That is some
That's
wonderful.
just one start, one tool.
Got it. So how did you get the idea to write this book?
Most of the work that I've been, actually the experience that I shared with you and what I've been doing, and I've put together a lot of tools through the years that have been effective for clients and really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I really have loved working with my clients, but I've also really enjoyed some of the volunteer work that I've done with different groups. I do a lot of work with young women of color. And right now I'm doing a lot of work with first generation college students and helping them and getting my message out beyond just the group that I've been working with, which is mostly my best marketing tool is really word of mouth. Which limits my audience. My time is limited. It's difficult to scale. So this is my best way to scale and get my message out and be able to help people beyond the one-on-one way that I've been conducting my business in the past 10 years. And I do believe that this is something that I have a message and a passion, and I can make a difference for people.
Well, that's wonderful. So, is reading the book enough for a college graduate, or do they?
I hope that reading the book, there's worksheets, there's really a basic methodology that I put together, and somewhat to my surprise, it works not only for college students but also for all levels. I have clients up to the C-suite, because often people in the C-suite, excuse me, have gotten there without doing a lot of interviewing. When you're really good, you get pulled from job to job to job by your manager. And the idea of interviewing and talking about yourself and your accomplishments is a little bit foreign because you're not used to doing it. So, and also the other thing is that if you are at that level and you're working in the world of executive recruiters, they're kind of looking for a round peg and a round hole. So if you're a operating partner at a private equity firm, you might have had experience working as a CFO and as a COO, but you don't fit very neatly into one of those categories. So if you're looking to get off the road, for example, you might need somebody to help you, maneuver yourself and your story to fit one or the other categories. So my methodology, which fits for all of those levels, boils down to three things. And you can tell if you read my book or if you talk to me long enough that I was a consultant for many years, because all of my methodologies boil down into 3 points. The first is that you need to understand what the job is. And that's why I started with you, and why I start my book with, you need to understand what jobs there are, how to analyze a company, how to analyze a role. And then you need to match your skills to what the job is, what the job entails. And then you need to prove that you want the job. And that's a huge one that a lot of people forget, because enthusiasm matters a lot. And most people that I interviewed throughout my career, and a lot of people that are interviewing forget, is that you really need to do it in the interview and not wait for the email thank you, not wait for the hard copy thank you, because by then the decision's been made. And it's hard for people to be really enthusiastic because they get nervous and they're anxious during an interview, and being anxious is the enemy of enthusiasm. But really, my experience is the job always goes to the person who wants it the most. And the way it worked more often than not, when I was working with a team, we would hire a large number of candidates, then a smaller in the second and third rounds. And in the final round, we'd have a very small group of candidates. And I'd bring my team in to say, what did you guys think? And inevitably, everybody would kind of go, they're kind of the same, but this one wants it the most. And the person who wanted the most always got the job. So that's a big part of what I try to tell people, is specifically say why you want this job for this company. And I still believe that that is the most important question that anybody can ask and answer in an interview, is why you want this job in a really detailed, specific, and enthusiastic way.
Wow, that's some good advice. So thank you so much, Amy. Thank you. These were all the questions that I had. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast, The Product Life. It was great having you.
Thank you so much.